All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webcast. We're going to wait about a minute or two until we have the rest of all of our attendees join. All right, let's get started. All right, well, welcome everybody. Good morning. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to attend our webcast. This is all about navigating the murky waters, the murky ERP waters. The purpose of today is to kind of help you really get the conversation going internally with your teams when you start looking at new ERP systems and kind of how to get that process going. I will note that this is it is focused on ERP systems that really can lend itself to all large enterprise systems, and by enterprise I mean accounting systems, e-commerce tools, warehouse management, logistics, you name it. A couple of housekeeping notes before we begin is number one is that this session will be recorded and sent to everybody who actually registered. And I think it's also going to be listed on our website as well. Number two, if you do have questions for us, which we welcome, there should be a chat box or question box on the right-hand side of your screen. Please fill those in and ask questions as we go along. We will be answering those at the end. All right, Dirk.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. And again, yes, thanks everybody for attending the webinar today. My name is Dirk Shimpa. I am the founder here at goVirtualOffice, and I'll be working alongside with Jeff here. A little background on me. I am a CPA, not a practicing CPA, but I've been working with accounting and ERP systems for some 20 plus years. So that'll be kind of the experience I'll be bringing to this webinar.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Constable, Senior Accounting Executive here at goVirtualOffice. I have about 18 or so years of enterprise business development marketing experience. My main role in all those years has been to kind of help guide individuals and organizations through their evaluation process when they're looking at these tools.
Yeah, so a little bit about goVirtualOffice. We are a NetSuite solution provider. We've been a NetSuite partner for going on 15, 16 years now. But yeah, we help companies in all different industries, whether they're manufacturing, distribution, software, services, you name it. We've helped out hundreds and hundreds of companies with their ERP implementations, post-implementations, and optimization. So a little bit about us. Thanks.
So the agenda for today, again, we're going to kind of go through a number of different things that kind of get you in the mood that kind of start things within your organization. So number one is, do I need a system, right? Do I have something that needs to be replaced from a system perspective? Go through a couple of benefits. You know, when you're starting to look at tools, what are some of the benefits that you and your team would actually have? We'll go through the steps of kind of a selection process. And then, Dirk's going to go over kind of some implementation best practices. So once it's actually purchased, once it's gone through, what are the processes that we should go through? And again, we'll hit the questions at the end. So with that said, the first section here is, do I need a system? And I put the replacement of a system or sometimes process change, and that is really important. That's one of the first questions that we ask when we talk with new people is, is it really a new system or is it a process change? So a couple of the basic issues that we normally hear when we're first talking with our clients, and some of these you're probably nodding your head like, oh yeah, that's us, right? One of the biggest things that the biggest issues we hear is too many spreadsheets, right? Or too many, different systems that we have in our current organization, right? We have spreadsheets for this, spreadsheets for this, and they all kind of interconnect somehow. If you look at the bottom left of the screen, we call this the hairball, right? And I'm sure many of you are kind of like nodding your head, like, yeah, that's us right there. We have something for our accounting tool. We have something for maybe our CRM. We have something for logistics and warehousing support, and it's all just kind of a big hairball of how all these things connect, or maybe they don't. Which kind of leads me to that middle point there is no integration, right? With a lot of disparate systems. That's a big one we hear all the time too. From the boots in the streets, right? A lot of double entry, sometimes triple, quadruple entry of when data is going in. Software costs too much, right? In those large organizations that we talk with, they have large ERP systems, and they're spending millions of dollars a year just to, keep updated. Some people, my favorite one is the bottom. Companies are still using the fax machine. So, Dirk, anything to add to this chart here? Basic issues.
No, it definitely, it's very common. I would say the most common solution most of our clients move from is QuickBooks, right? They started out with QuickBooks, and that application or other applications can only take them so far. So then what happens? They use all these Excel spreadsheets outside of it. They use other systems, and nothing talks to anything. And in the end, they kind of get at a stalling point where it's really hard for them to grow and to efficiently process and get reporting. So it's usually a very common story we hear all the time, regardless of company and industry.
Yeah, and Dirk, you mentioned reporting. That's a big thing too. Is I have all these different systems. It's hard for me to report on. If you look at one of my middle points here, no easy access to information, right? They have information over here, those different spreadsheets, and yeah, they have the information, but it takes a lot of time and effort to kind of integrate all that information and come up with a kind of a final tool there. So, and kind of another layer to this, kind of a bigger, we call it a major catalyst that we hear our customers are looking for a change. These are just a couple of them, right? An equity event, right? There's maybe some kind of merger or acquisition that's happened or that's going to happen, right? And the tools that each company has is just maybe not efficient for the larger, enterprise tool. Growth, which kind of goes along with that. Strategic initiatives set by management. After maybe the board gets together, there's going to be maybe there's a new product or a service that you're going to come out within your organization. Change. We also hear a lot about, especially like medical device and chemical and food and beverage organizations. There's some kind of government or industry regulations that they have to follow. So from a reporting perspective, that's huge. Business threats and just some general cost-cutting obsolescence. So, Dirk, any other kind of major catalysts that you might want to include in here?
No, same thing. We run into all of these, or a number of them, quite often. Like, we work a lot with private equity firms, so a lot of times when they acquire a new portfolio company, they want to improve processes, get better reporting, kind of streamline efficiencies, so we see that one. We recently, this fall, been working with a particular distributor that distributes a hand sanitizer to basically those stand-up units at every Walmart across the U.S. and into Canada. And again, up until, COVID hit, there wasn't much there, but all of a sudden now there's a huge demand to have those dispensers at every Walmart. So that was a situation of growth. And then and I'll talk about this with an upcoming client, but, sometimes there's, second generation or third generation, family ownership or a buyout. So definitely change and new leadership can drive these decisions as well.
So Dirk, why don't you talk about one of our customers?
Yeah, a good point. So this is one of our clients that we recently, probably around 9-10 months ago, decided. We've been working with them for almost 2 to 3 years, and the timing just wasn't right. Their previous situation, they had Microsoft Great Plains or GP for years, and that primarily did inventory and order processing. They actually were using an outside accountant for all their financials, so anything in GP didn't really talk to what the accountant was using for the financials. So there's a lot of dual data entry. They had their own custom home-built web store and shopping cart that kind of integrated with GP, but required all sorts of ongoing patchwork and development and different things. And again, it was those first 2 slides, right? Lots of systems, poor reporting, and not very efficient processes. So about a year ago, there was there's a second generation. The son acquired the company from the father, and there's lots of opportunities for growth, and they made the decision to move on to a new ERP to help improve the efficiencies and get a much better reporting and kind of get everything into one system. So all of those things we kind of listed, or very many of them, very much fit Loomis.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dirk. All right, so what are the benefits, right? Dirk labeled some there with our current customer, but what are the other benefits that we can kind of achieve while putting in a new system? And overall, if you look at this, these are all the basics, right? Everyone's kind of nodding their head to this one, like, well, yeah, this is probably what you would get. But real-time visibility, from a reporting perspective, very easy to do once all of your different departments and processes are together. Increased productivity, right? If you think about maybe like a manufacturing process, or even just in your accounting department, everything is going to be together, and it'll work together, and all the different sections can kind of integrate their processes. Better control, right? Understanding what's going on, how to actually, what changes can we make, and having that control within those departments. Collaboration is kind of a continuation of those top 3, and obviously workflow. If you look at it from maybe like the leader, right? The president, COO, president of an organization, what are they going to get out of this? So again, a collaborative environment, really, which you want all of your employees to be working together. They are going to be able to kind of delegate responsibilities, right? So once they have kind of all those reports and understanding what's going on in their organization, very easy to understand who should do what. Be able to scale faster, right? We have a number of organizations that that are customers of ours that one of the first things out of their mouth when they're looking at tools is we need to scale, right? We're going to have a merger. We're going to have more products. We want something to be able to kind of grow with us as we grow. With the reporting, I keep going back to reporting, but a lot of be able to control the cost of what's going on in your organization, right? And obviously, information that you can click on right away and understand what's going on in those departments. And then I'm going to pick on a specific department from an accounting and finance perspective, right? Real-time visibility and what's going on, financial visibility. Eliminate that double entry that I was talking about before and those basics. The consolidations. There's a lot of things that you can automate or streamline from a AR, AP, GL, invoicing, banking perspective. And obviously, an ERP system is really going to be kind of a centralized place to get this information. So, Dirk, anything to add from an accounting finance perspective?
The biggest thing I would call out would be cash flow, right? Especially in these uncertain times, cash is king, And, you know, again, by having a true ERP where everything from operations and sales and purchasing and supply chain management, it's all part of your finance system, you truly can, you know, really watch your inventory levels. You can see, oh, is my AR, you know, where are my collections at? You know, how are my day sales outstanding? All of those things that impact cash, you'll have much clearer view towards and be able to react quicker on. So it definitely has a big impact on managing cash in the end.
Definitely. So, and Dirk, you mentioned inventory, right? So if you look at even just benefits from an operational manufacturing perspective, right? You know, everyone wants to kind of deliver that perfect order. So not just delivery, but, you know, understanding your inventory, what you have on hand, what do you have at maybe at different buildings throughout the United States or your state. But again, it's one place, one location to get that information. You can balance demand, balance supply, understand what you have from a materials and labor perspective. Dirk, anything to add from a benefits on the operation side?
I mean, I kind of called out just, you know, better managing your inventory from a cash standpoint, but there's also, you know, customer satisfaction, you know, knowing, you know, what inventory you have on hand, you know, when it's going to be available, what's on back order, you know, meeting customer orders on time. You know, you need to have visibility into the whole procurement, the production, lead times, all of that stuff is crucial into, you know, customer satisfaction as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things we hear after a NetSuite implementation is you know, being able to collaborate. You can see the middle point there with the vendors and suppliers is huge, right? No more fax machines, no more calling, no more emailing. It's kind of all together. So, a couple of benefits we'd like to show just from a departmental perspective, and this is kind of a neat graphic. And I will say that this is actually coming from an interview that an outside firm did with all of NetSuite's customers. If you look at the far left, kind of those different departments, and maybe it's your organization, and some key performance indicators, and a couple of them that I'll call out here is finances, right? Time to close the books, and if you look at, you know, it might take you a couple weeks, maybe 10 days, just from like maybe not even having an ERP system to maybe kind of a lower level tool, and then once you're able to kind of put in a very collaborative type of ERP system, a number of their customers went down to just hours to close the books. That's pretty amazing. Another one I'll pick on here too is orders, right? From a fill rate perspective, you know, a lot of what we heard is that our fill rate is, you know, low 90s, right? And what they're able to do is, you know, get up almost at 100%, you know, mark. At 98, I think it was kind of an average mark, but this is, you know, benefits from a very basic perspective. If you are really going to have a decent system in place, you really should see some really good return on different processes. So, Dirk, anything to add from here?
Yeah, the thing I would call out, and these are real results that a number of ERP, you know, companies that, you know, went with a more robust, fully integrated ERP did see and have seen. But what I would tell you is, you know, even if you move just a little bit to the right on a few of these lines, anytime you move from the left to the right, you are adding value to both your processes, your company, you know, and in the end, probably your financial results. So you don't have to go all the way from the left to the right to get, you know, certain value by moving to a new ERP. Just even incremental movements in any one of those green arrows, you should see some real value.
Another benefit we hear too is after adding a really good ERP system in-house or change is headcount, right? We don't really have headcount here, but we've heard a lot of companies where they've added more products or more services to their portfolio, or they've grown their organization, merging, whatever, but they weren't able to add, they didn't have to add headcount, right, to things too. So another benefit.
Yeah, the other thing, the nice thing about headcount from a ROI standpoint, right, it's a pretty easy one to understand. If you're going on a big growth period and now you got to go hire some people to enter more data, to do more processing or whatever, right? Let's say an average person, average employee costs 40 to 50K. That's $100,000 a year. You could very possibly get into a new ERP for less than that. There's all sorts of ways you can perceive value and get ROI in your company.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I guess that when we talk about benefits, just to bring back Loomis back up, very much all those things that Jeff kind of called out, definitely real-time reporting, real-time dashboards to see where things are at, what's on back order, what more kind of exception reporting now to kind of, really focus on, I got inventory spiking here, or, it looks like I'm going to be short there. What's going on with, I kind of called out with my AR or AP. So definitely seeing a lot better reporting and can react quicker. One of the things that was called out is right away was, it used to basically take, what used to take 8 hours for shipping. Once kind of they got everything in place, they were able to with the same number of people, get shipping out in 2 hours. So that was pretty dramatic, when they get into, not so much a busy season, but they get a rush of orders in, they can confidently know that they can get them all shipped in, a quarter of the time. So lots of benefits that they did see.
All right, so our next section is the steps for selection. And one thing I will call out is what Dirk and I are going to share here today is kind of high level, and we're going to go over kind of quick. But if you guys if you have any questions on a number of different steps here, we'd be glad to take your phone call or email. So number one is we would like to understand, kind of, tell our prospects or customers, why is it that you need a new ERP system? And really to kind of understand what that actually is, right? If you go back to one of the basic things that Dirk and I were explaining above about, too many spreadsheets or many disparate systems, is understand what that issue actually is, right? And then obviously know that there is a faster way, a more convenient way to actually do those processes, right? Another thing we always kind of guide our customers in is what is, knowing what is coming in the future. I know it kind of sounds basic, but for example, is there a merger coming up? As I mentioned before, are we going to have new products or services that we're going to roll out in 2021? Are we? There's so many different things. And the last one too is understanding the vision. Now this may sound kind of strange, but understand what the company vision is and actually kind of clarifying what that actually is before you go through all these different sections. Number two, I should say, is really kind of getting buy-in, right? I know we're kind of skipping a lot of steps here, but getting buy-in is crucial, right? You might have in your particular department some real big needs on why we have a system and needs and wants, right? But getting buy-in, because as we all know, an ERP system kind of hits many different departments and actually hits the whole organization, right? Is really getting buy-in on why we need a tool. Number two is kind of assigning a project lead, right? Once that kind of is all established, right? Understanding why and getting buy-in is getting somebody internal who maybe doesn't have to be an expert in each one of your departments, but really understands your whole organization, who to reach, who to talk with, maybe some just kind of general knowledge of what goes on with a certain process within your organization. That's key, right? Number two or three is really getting together all of your subject matter experts, right? Who is a really good person in the accounting department? Who knows all of our processes, right? Who is somebody that knows all of our service arrangements with our customers? Who knows our manufacturing process? And really kind of getting all those people in a room together to kind of discuss what's going to happen here and really go through those business requirements, right? What is our requirement for order to cash? What's our requirement for procure to pay? You guys kind of get it. Number 2 or 4 or 5, whatever number this is finding the right partner. I think the big thing here is, a number of us, these days, and a number of you on the call here are very busy, right? And there are some organizations out there that have teams of people that actually that have the availability to actually put in a new system. But many, meaning like 80, 90%, which is a huge number, actually bring in a partner, right? So number one is finding the right partner, right? And I think the biggest thing is understanding and talking to them and understanding what their processes are, right? Do they have real world experience? Do they have manufacturing experience? Do they have software selling and service experience like we do? Can they understand what we're going through? Do they ask the right questions, or can they ask the right questions? It's always nice that when you're talking with a partner for the first time, is ask them questions that are very specific to a manufacturer or to a food and beverage distributor or to a software reseller. Doesn't whoever it is. Do they have experience in my industry? That's huge, right? Are they able to add or bring value from a real world experience to you? And is it a major brand, right? There are many, as you guys know, there are many different tools and systems out there that do everything, right? But it's a major name. That's a key thing is, how long has the system been around that these people sell? So, Dirk, anything from a partner perspective you want to add?
Yeah, just like you said, experience matters. In the end, implementing an ERP is not easy. There's all sorts of change. There's redefining processes and procedures. There's working with your team on a very intimate level, helping out with change management and everything else. So you want to make sure, when it gets hard, you got the right partner. And then they can also properly, solution design and get your ERP successfully delivered for the long term. And on the major brand, again, yes, we on a number of occasions we've had clients that have gone with a lesser brand, and some 3-6 months, year and a half later, sometimes those brands don't succeed. And then they got to go re-implement an ERP again. Just those are all very good points. Thanks, Jeff.
And another thing too to add to a partner is it's not, you don't have a partner just to the implementation and go live, right? It's after that too. Who's going to stick around with us? Who's going to be our partner for years afterwards with this tool, and when you need help, maybe with adding a certain a new module or a different report or something like that. Dirk, you want to talk about kind of the buying process?
Yeah, so the process to go through an ERP evaluation and to pick the right ERP definitely has changed. Historically, and when I say historically, the last let's say 15, 20 years, it's kind of been what you're seeing here. The first 3 bullet points are still very important, right? Like Jeff said, you need to know what your requirements are, what the needs are for a system. So that all has to happen. But in the end, it kind of gets down to, where companies would go through and list, pages and pages of requirements and RFPs, and they would go through this, arduous task of identifying vendors and defining demo scripts and then providing sample data, and in the end, as a provider, we would start from scratch and kind of build everything up and do a proof case and so on and so forth. So there's just a lot of steps that have traditionally happened, from a buying standpoint. I think it's easier today, and the reason is, Jeff, you want to go to the next slide, is many of these major brands have pre-built editions. They have editions ready to go for a wholesale distributor, a manufacturing, a software company, a food and beverage, you name it. And there's more and more, even getting very very specific to even micro verticals where they're pre-built. They've got roles, they got dashboards, they got all of the processes defined. You don't log in and have a blank account anymore. So that's one aspect, right? That you're starting out not with a blank account, you're starting out with something very concrete, and you're kind of like 40, 50, 60% all the way already down the road with an implementation by just having these pre-built editions. But the other part of it is they're built around leading practices. There's hundreds and thousands of companies kind of like you in your industry that proved out all the analytics and the KPIs and the processes. So at that point, our recommendation is to find some of these leading ERP providers that have these pre-built editions, and really they should walk through out of the box solution for you in your industry. And in the end, you want to compare that against your requirements and your needs. And for the most part, they should be a pretty good fit. If they're not, then maybe that's not the right solution. But what you do need to look for, and you'll see kind of towards the bottom, is that word exceptions. Because every company is unique. They all have something that's a little different about how they may price or how they may, process an order. There may be some extra steps or whatever it is. So you want to kind of have an ear for those exceptions, and then raise your hand for those exceptions and see if there's a third-party solution. Is there a simple configuration? Maybe there is some development around that, just that little gap or exception. And we'll talk about this here in the next section, but it's less about, build something up from scratch. Start with something that you're up 50, 60% all the way down the road, and focus on the exceptions.
So next we're going to talk about implementation best practices, right? So this is taking into consideration that you picked a solution set, you went through the stuff that Dirk just mentioned, and actually you're ready to go with a new tool.
Yeah, so just kind of a continuation on, and Jeff talked about this, pretty much the same team through the selection process should be the same team through the implementation process. So for sure you need executive sponsors, like a steering committee. If the executive team is not behind this major change for your company, the wheels are going to come off the bus very quickly. So you need active participation, a steering team, from the executive group. You want a strong team, like Jeff said, that really understands subject matter experts, that really understand all of the areas and departments and what those requirements and needs are. You need to be organized. And then we're big believers of kind of start small and kind of work your way up a stairway, rather than try to implement everything one big bang. Over time we've seen that approach is not as successful as what are those core things we need, and then kind of move up a stairway. And then you want to manage what we're asking for in the phase one. You want to keep a tight control over scope and change, because anytime scope and change expands, the two things, the project, the timeline extends out, and normally costs go up. And then, get get the end users, the people who will be using the system, engaged in the process very early. So again, this is a typical implementation recommendation or recommended implementation process, and I kind of talked about what we call as the foundation. So try not to implement every possible feature, every possible function, maybe even every possible department in that first, implementation. What are the core minimum that we need, and let's get that up. And that's what we call foundation. Once you kind of get that, usually post go live, it's a 30, 45 days. You kind of work through the kinks, get users used to a new system, new rhythms, and you'll get to what we call a stable state. Once you're at that stable state, then you kind of don't stop, by the way. You've got this new robust ERP that can do all of these wonderful things for your company. Have a very strategic plan to continue to get rid of more and more spreadsheets, pull more and more pieces into your ERP, and then just kind of work up what we call the stairway to eventually what we call the dominate, and you'll get to an easy button. And that's what we're all after in life. So
everyone wants an easy button.
Right. So yeah, and again, in this, you're going to focus on leading practices and the word exceptions. Again, let's implement as much out of the box, natural as possible. And then if there is some unique things, again, those are called exceptions, and we'll just address those separately. That word exceptions is very huge. So by going with a kind of a stairway, a phased approach, obviously by taking a smaller bite of the apple, you're able to go live faster. We totally see that. Usually most implementations are 100 to 120 days, sometimes even less. We have happier clients because there's less cost, you're live faster, you're seeing some of the value and the return on a solution sooner than later. Your implementations are normally less, and again, by leveraging these out-of-the-box, ready-to-go additions, you're already kind of following leading practices going forward with your company. So this is an example of a stairway. We talked about that phased approach and the foundation. This is unique for every company, but again, as discussions happen, as we learn more, our clients learn more, it really gets kind of fine-tuned what's in that foundation. But then there's normally fast followers. So these are my priority 2s, my priority 3s, priority 4s, and then we kind of define the stairway accordingly, and there's a plan to kind of execute clients up through this, and eventually, you'll hopefully be utilizing more and more of that solution. Again, this is a recommended example of an implementation plan. You should have a kickoff. You should have kind of personalization sessions of what is needed for your classes, your departments, your chart of accounts, your terms. Are we using lots and serials? All of those things. What's the data strategy? Who's the project team? All of those things. Kind of once you get through that, then set up configuration. Exceptions. If there are some exceptions, those need to be built out and defined. Process walkthroughs with end users, subject matter experts to make sure what's built, what's configured will fit, and eventually get to kind of some acceptance testing, and then before go live, there's a big focus on data migration and final testing, and eventually you're at go live. And again, this is where you need a strong partner to work with your team side by side. Things do come up and go live, and they got to be able to react fast and adjust, and eventually work with your company to get all the users to that stable state.
And data is big, right, Dirk?
Right. Yeah. So the only reason I bring this up is it is really important not to take data lightly. That really needs to be its own project plan. To be honest, this one screen data in itself is the riskiest part of any implementation of any project. Because if your data is not right, if somebody missorts some data or loads data in the wrong place, or who knows, all sorts of different things can happen. The minute you turn that switch and go live, everything can blow up. So please, take data very seriously in your implementation. And again, just to bring Loomis back in, they very much followed this kind of stairway approach. They defined their foundation, and then quickly after, wanted to get, demand planning, maybe some replenishment in place, some support cases. Like there was certain things that they wanted as quick followers. And again, as far as go live goes, issues did come up. We worked through them, and literally within a day, a few days, users got comfortable, and again within 45 days, most all things were kind of ironed out, and they got to that stable state, and now they're moving forward and really starting to see a lot of value.
So yeah, thanks, Dirk. Appreciate that. It's nice to bring a customer that has gone through that. So we have a couple tools that are available to you. These you can ask for these by emailing the email there, or you can obviously call Dirk and/or I or our organization. They're also, I think, available on our website. But we have a self-guided ERP assessment. It's really nice because it kind of goes through all the questions we asked above. Do we really need a new tool? A nice thing that our customers liked is that we were able to provide them kind of the business process maps. Dirk and I mentioned the procure to pay, order cash, design to build, and it kind of helps when you're having your internal meetings with your subject matter experts. It kind of gives you kind of a best practice to kind of go through and kind of look at what you guys are doing, what can a new system do, things like that. Business requirements questionnaire. We also have a scorecard available. So if you are going to be talking with a number of vendors or partners, it kind of helps you kind of understand and look and score, what are our partners, what can they bring to the table. We do have a very sample, very high level RFI. If you do go down that path, we have something like that that's available to you. And we have a top 10 questions to ask document, very short. Maybe this one should have been at the top of the page here, but it kind of gets you talking to internally with your team. But again, if you are interested in these, you can visit our website or just email the email address that you see there, and be glad to share that with you. So now, Dirk, I'd like to kind of open up to questions here. We do have a few questions that came across, but I'll start here. It looks like the first one here is, what type of person is good to be a project lead within my organization?
Oh, yeah, a very good question. It's definitely a very key role in any organization with any implementation. Typically, what we've seen historically as, I guess the right characteristics of someone would be, and Jeff, you called it out earlier, someone that kind of really understands the business as a whole. I mean, they don't need to know every little nuance, but they really need to understand how all the departments work, some of the, who are the key people that they may need to pull in. But I almost kind of think of them as like a business analyst, right? They understand the business processes, the reporting, so think of it more kind of a business analyst. If they're savvy with technology, with systems, they pick up on stuff, that's very important. But yeah, ideally someone that kind of understands the the company at a pretty good level, and they're savvy and also are good with people. So it's a unique skill set, but they're pretty valuable in the process.
Yeah, being able to communicate with people is a big thing too, right?
The other thing we do see with them is post-implementation, right? They kind of become the internal NetSuite admin or consultant for that company. And in a lot of ways, they become the go-to with questions and different things. But they're also able to take most reports, most internal projects, 80, 90%, and then they kind of just, call us or would call whoever the supporting partner is for the last 20. So it definitely is an important role, both upfront in the implementation and post-implementation.
And Dirk, to kind of continue with that question, in the past, I guess 15, 16 years that we have been around, have you seen a certain type of person within a certain department that kind of you have always seen as the project lead, whether within accounting or somebody manufacturing?
It's not always one type. I definitely somewhat like a controller or someone in the accounting function, just because everything in the end ends up in accounting. We do see that. However, you'll see somebody in like operations or in the manufacturing floor, or someone that definitely understands operations as well. Sometimes sales. So there's not always one, but probably more common than not, it may come from the finance department.
Okay. Another question we have here is, how long does an implementation last?
Yeah, it really all depends on size and how complex, what's all get pulled into that foundation phase. I would say most, let's say you're a 5 to 10 user environment, that normally can happen within 100 days. I would say if you're getting closer to 20 to 50 user environment, you're probably getting more closer to 120 days, like 4 to 6 months. So it really depends, but normally, 6 months would be the high mark.
Okay.
For a complex industry.
Gotcha. Thank you. The last question we have here came in is, and I think you kind of answered this on a couple of previous slides, Dirk, is what is the most crucial part of an implementation?
Yeah, it would be, it's definitely data. It's also, you do need the right partner. Many times we've had companies that, have chosen, NetSuite in this case, and went with, another partner. Maybe they went with a publisher. That implementation didn't go well. It was kind of an out of the box, cookie cutter, do it yourself implementation. And, some 3 months, year down the road, they had to re-implement. So again, it's important to find that right partner and
Excellent.
data.
Good. That looks like all the questions that we have received. Again, if you would like to get a hold of Dirk and or myself, our information is here. And as a repeat to when we began, this session has been recorded, and each of you will receive a copy of this. With that said, I want to thank everybody for attending and taking the time out of your day. I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday season, and can't wait to talk with you in 2021. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.